Okay, it is the week of June 27th, June 28th, June 26th, and I want to give you another update on the variable rate. So, as we know, earlier this month, a couple weeks ago, we've already talked about a couple of videos, 0.25% increase, and what does things look like, and what big news has come out this week. So here's a few facts we know. We know that the U.S. paused interest rate hikes this month, pledging to still raise interest rates this year, but they paused it for the time being. Okay, if you remember from previous videos, the general trajectory is that the U.S. and Canada should be 2 to 1. So um, the U.S. raises rates at a velocity of 2 to 1 to what Canada raises rates to. Right now, we're very much lock in step, but still. So that's something to be, keep well in your mind. Um, we know this week that inflation dropped to the lowest levels since 2021 summer, so just over 3%. And the CPI index dropped as well, consumer price index dropped. So those should all be things in my mind that should clearly indicate that rate hikes have taken their effect and that pausing would be the most reasonable course of action. And rate hikes, when we've had such a dramatic drop in inflation, would be clearly out of the question based on that. However, we do have most economists predicting a 50% chance of rate hike increase in July, and um, and even a greater chance if it doesn't happen in July, it happens in September. Um, there's a few thoughts I have on this. First of all, I think that this is something completely new and absolutely different than we've ever seen before. I think nobody has a clue. I think when you see something that says they're predicting rates are doing this, predicting that, I think those are all out the window. So there's no correct predictions. Nobody knows what's going on. We can see that's very evident in the bond market that there is normally, I think we would see a fairly big consensus on the way things are going, but we're not seeing that. There's no bigger indication of that than the last rate hike when we have 23 out of 28 economists predicting no rate hike, and only very few of them predicting that would be on the table. So I think it's very clear that nobody has a clear path and nobody has a clue. I think very much so the Bank of Canada does not have a clear indication. So when we say, oh, they're going to raise rates now, I don't think they know. I think if you ask Tim Backlund, the Bank of Canada governor, I do not think he knows for certain. And so I think this is, we've now heard that even what pushed over the edge was that there was a talk is that it seemed like the social media narrative was that the real estate market was heating up in some of the bigger markets, Toronto, Vancouver, those types of places. And so, um, you know, all to say here that I think that the path forward on this is that, um, hey, nobody has a clue. And so when someone says we're predicting this, we're predicting that, nobody has a clue because this is a intentional rate change. Rate changes are intentional. The Bank of Canada committee meets together, decides on rate change. It doesn't happen by accident, by fluke. Nobody has a clue. Okay, this is very important to be aware of. Secondly, at this point, we should be very, and I do not mean to sound the alarm, but this is not like last year where we see things going a certain way. We see certain indicators, although we don't agree with it, we think it's crazy. We see certain indicators that are moving the story and moving the narrative. That is no longer the case. We have inflation tanking and we've raised rates. We're really going off script here. So, what should we do? I think that the advice remains the same. 5 and 6% interest rate is a normalized interest rate. If that is a struggle for you, a 5 or 6% interest rate, because you're going to encounter it, whether you lock in, whether you get to renewal, whether rates, variables go with that, it's going to come in your face at some point somehow. Fixed or variable does not matter. Um, the So this is something to be aware of. And so I think if 5 and 6% is a problematic interest rate for you, it is time for you to do one of two things, or one of three things: increase your income to make that an affordable payment, or decrease your expenses for that matter. Two, deleverage means taking a lump sum, putting it down. Or three, going to a smaller property, going to a smaller mortgage. That is the key if these things are problematic for you. Not locking into a fixed rate or anything like that. These are all things that you're putting a band-aid on. Bad advice. Okay, so this is the thing. And we do have to assume at this point that them going off script, that rate hikes are possible and likely in some senses. So what about the age-old question of the fixed rate and the variable? I would say that for the interim basis, with a loud caveat here, the history tells us the variable will still come back and perform better than the fixed rate. Remember, 2008, during the financial crisis, 300 300 bips drop, which is 3% rate drop from that prime went down. So people are talking about, oh, the rates went up so fast. Rates go down that fast too. And this is, in fact, the fact they went up so fast for a time period is probably further confirmation that they could go the other way as well. But I think, I think that you going into fixed rate, you have the risk that you still do not perform well once this thing works its way out of the system. Secondly, I think if you're going to do anything, refinancing, you're going to sell your house, touch your mortgage, and don't give me all this crap about, I'm going to port it or blend it. These are possible things, but not likely, and the banks will not make it easy for you. So, man, if I see another Facebook post with someone saying, oh, when you sell your home, the bank will just let you port, no penalty. Not true. They don't know what they're talking about. Drives me crazy when I see that stuff, because there's a lot more to it. So this is vitally important. So if you're going at a fixed rate, you have to be aware that the penalties are repercussion. Now, at this point, if I'm talking about most mortgages, let's say it's a $15,000 to $20,000 hit. That's just what I'm going in eyes wide open. I'm locking in a $15,000 to $20,000 hit. Now, Joel, are you finally consenting? I said, what? I think fixed rates have not, although they've moved up a bit in the last little while, they have not moved up as meaningfully over since March. The big jump was very quickly. March to April, going from what they were 1% to the 4 and 5% range, and they're still around those range. So I don't really believe that they've meaningfully moved up. I think that if it's true that you feel that affordability is a problem, and you feel like that is the highest payment that you can reasonably do, I think your time is to lock in on that, knowing that your penalty is going to hurt later. That's the reality. Am I locking in? No, I'm going to take the variable, but I will fully disclose to you that I can afford the variable fluctuations. I've done the math on a lot of different situations, and I'm prepared to cut expenses and increase income if I need to. So I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but that is just like everybody has their own reality of things they like and don't like to do. So that is the recommendation on that front. That is where we sit, and it's a messy place to sit in because it's a lot of uncertainty and that type of thing. And I do consent that for some folks now might be the time to take some certainty with that fixed rate. My hunch is that that's not going to pay off, but I do realize we know what we know now, and we know now that if we see the variable move up, and if we're going to go to a situation where prime goes into 7% ranges, then we have every variable over 6%. I mean, your fixing into a rate would be lower than that. So anyway, as usual, you need any help, call me. I'll help you with it. If this is helpful to a friend, please share these videos. It would be really helpful to us. We're just a small business too, and we're always relying on your friends and family for referrals.